For some analysis on the Cuba situation, we turn to Julia Sweig, a senior research fellow at the LBJ School of Public Affairs and the author of Cuba, What Everyone Needs to Know. She is also a CBS News Cuba analyst and has been advising American companies doing business in Cuba. We're also joined by Jeffrey Goldberg, editor of The Atlantic and the last American journalist to interview Fidel Castro. So you both were with Fidel Castro. Jeffrey, I want to start with you. What was that like? This is in 2010, right?
It was very, very strange. He was in retirement, but he still functioned as sort of the maximum leader, if you will. He called me down to Cuba to discuss an issue that was of concern to him, the Iranian nuclear program and the threat of nuclear war in the Middle East. And so having a conversation with one of the most incendiary figures of the Cuban Missile Crisis was one of the more interesting moments of my life. I had Julia with me on this trip. The key memory, or one of the key memories of this, is when I asked him if he regrets asking Khrushchev in 1962 to annihilate the United States with nuclear weapons. And he paused and he said, in essence, he said, yeah, that was probably a bit too much. It was continued that entire week to be a very, very strange week.
Yeah, Julia, did he mellow with old age?
Considerably. With Jeff, and then a couple days later into that week, I spent a day with him talking about the history, the 1950s, and I found him to be conversational, which was not his style when he was in power. Subsequently, after 2010, as he became a bit weaker, he certainly did mellow, and he was pointedly, at least directly, stayed out of his brother's way as his brother Raul advanced a modest reform process.
He mellowed, but not to the degree that he seemed to be very happy with Barack Obama's opening to Cuba. Fidel Castro, for 50-plus years, needed the confrontation with the United States in order to, that was his reason for living in a kind of way. And Obama subverted, in a very obvious sort of way, the Fidel Castro narrative. And Raul, who is in power, changed in a more pragmatic way.
Subverted by taking away the boogeyman of the United States.
Taking away the boogeyman, yeah.
Julia, let's historically look back at the full career of Fidel Castro. What should history think of him?
Well, it's a long and complex career. There is the analysis that will say, look, this guy took power, shut down speech, put people in prison, had a human rights legacy that was quite challenging and difficult for many people who were on the other end of it. On the other hand, he rewrote the social contract in Cuba, in a small island nation, in which he put healthcare, education, culture, and the capacity for Cuba to have an independent foreign policy front and center as part of his legacy. And in Cuba, and I think we have to understand that there are 11 million people in Cuba, that legacy will be digested as giving Cuba a place on the world stage.
But there are three things that many Cubans will say Castro did well: healthcare, education, culture. But the joke is that there are three things that Fidel Castro didn't do well for the Cuban people, which was breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And so you're looking at a guy who impoverished, or kept his country in an impoverished state because he refused to open up to capitalist reforms. And obviously, on the political front, we will remember him in America as a guy who suppressed freedom. I mean, there's no way around the fact that it is a single-party communist state and remains so.
What now does U.S. policy look like towards Cuba, Jeffrey?
Well, we're at a really pivotal moment. What the Obama administration is trying to do is lock in some of the changes before it's too late, before Donald Trump comes in, and he has threatened, obviously, to reverse some of these changes. So I think what the Obama administration right now is trying to do is make sure that these openings continue. Their best ally in this, of course, is American business. A lot of American businesses are very interested in turning Cuba into sort of Bahamas on steroids. It's a separate issue that's worrisome to Cubans, but there are a lot of people in the Chamber of Commerce universe who would like to keep this opening going.
Julia, and last word to you on this policy. Where do you see it going, and how does it play out?
Well, look, President-elect Trump is a hotel guy, he's a business guy. When he takes the White House, he will hear from a number of American companies that are now flying commercial planes starting this week to Cuba, building hotels on the island, American people, universities, museums across the board, Cuban Americans themselves investing in their families, businesses on the island, voting with their feet, even Marco Rubio's constituents on the island taking advantage of the Obama opening. President-elect Trump has a choice to make. Does he want to go back to the Cold War and pick a fight and punish 11 million people for the trespasses of two guys named Castro? Or does he want to take the opportunity coming in 2018, when Raul Castro says he will step down, to really shape the direction of the two countries' relationship?
All right, we're going to have 10 seconds.
No, I would just not be surprised if 10 years from now there's a Trump golf course at the Bay of Pigs. Just mark my words.